I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
I think of Sandra Day O'Connor, I put her in this category of very, really small group. Susan B. Anthony, Sally Rye, real trailblazers.
She was amazingly adept at anything she ever tried.
So she's mom.
The girl who became a Supreme Court justice grew up on a ranch that straddled the border between Arizona and New Mexico. Sandra Day O'Connor's brother says on the Lazy Bee, if something had to be done, you did it yourself.
The nearest neighbor was 20 miles, and so you made your own entertainment. If a problem came up, especially if a problem came up, you solved it. We couldn't call Roto-Rooter. We couldn't call, a plumber. We took care of the problems that were there at the ranch to keep the ranch going, and we just were raised that way.
Alan Day remembers the roundup where the cook was out of action, and Sandra Day volunteered to bring food to the trailhands. When she showed up late, her father would not accept her excuse.
And so he said, well, where the hell have you been? And Sandra said, well, I had a flat tire. And my dad, her father, said, well, why the hell didn't you fix it? Well, you don't fix it, you change it, and fix it when you get back to the ranch. And she said, well, I did change it, but it took me a while. And he said, then you should have started earlier.
Even with the isolation of the Lazy Bee, the family had ways to keep in touch with the world, with a slight delay.
My mother subscribed to the Los Angeles Times newspaper, and my father subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. And they got there a week late, but they arrived, and they arrived, and they arrived, and they arrived, and we digested basically every word of both of those.
So that's how you kept up on...
And then my dad loved Time magazine, and then we subscribed to Life magazine, which doesn't even exist anymore, but those were our periodicals.
Despite the demands of ranch life, she excelled at school.
She was amazingly adept at anything she ever tried. And so she graduated high school 2 years early and was in Stanford when she was 16.
At Stanford, she coped with a campus flooded with former soldiers just returned from World War II. It helped that she had a roommate who grew up on a ranch too and had some of the same resourcefulness that helped her power through challenges.
So they decided, well, we better study hard to stay up with all this. At the end of the year, they were number 1 and number 2 in their class.
She graduated and stayed at Stanford for law school. Here she is in 1952 listening to a moot court competition. There are actually 2 future Supreme Court justices in this photo from almost 70 years ago. The man next to her is William Rehnquist. As an associate justice, he was one of the people recommending her when President Reagan nominated O'Connor to the High Court. Rehnquist later became Chief Justice. She married her classmate, John O'Connor, and started looking for work. But the woman who would become the first at the Supreme Court found in 1952, even as a top performer in law school, being a woman kept her from getting a job as a lawyer. She tried the prosecutor's office in a county near Stanford.
So the county attorney said, well, I would love to hire you, but I don't have any space. We physically don't have the space. I don't have an office, don't have a desk. And Sandra said, well, I could share that desk with that secretary right there. And the guy said, you'd be willing to do that? And Sandra said, yeah, you bet. So he hired her on the spot. And of course, she was a star from day one.
She went on to a variety of legal jobs. In politics, she rose to the president of the Arizona State Senate, the first woman in that post. She was on the Arizona Court of Appeals when President Ronald Reagan chose her for the Supreme Court. Alan Day says, back at the ranch, that came as quite a surprise.
They might not have let the newspaper know, but they said, okay, you're it. And she then called and said, well, I got appointed to the Supreme Court. But I didn't know myself, maybe my folks knew, but I didn't know that she was even back in Washington interviewing about that. And so just all of a sudden it's like, wow, she's on the Supreme Court.
After 25 years helping to form the law that guides this country, she stepped down from the Supreme Court in 2006, but continued to hear cases as an appeals court judge until 6 years ago. Dementia striking her husband was part of the reason to retire.
Husband that's failing, and she wasn't as young as she used to be, and how do you handle it? Because she tried for a while taking John to the office and kind of letting her secretary entertain him, or even I was back there and she'd say, Alan, take John out and go to lunch and do something with John, and I would do that.
Sandra Day O'Connor cited her own advancing dementia as she withdrew from public life. While she is no longer active in the society she helped to shape, the trail she blazed from a dusty ranch to the highest court in the land guides others who will build on her legacy. Craig Smith, KGUN 9, on your side.
Sworn into the Supreme Court of the United States in 1981, Sandra Day O'Connor broke new ground for women in the legal field as the first female justice. For 24 years, she moved the needle, serving as the swing vote in many cases. But before she made her mark as justice, O'Connor grew up on a cattle ranch near Duncan, Arizona. She attended Stanford University at 16 years old, graduating magna cum laude with a bachelor's in economics in 1950. She went on to continue her education at Stanford Law School for a law degree. After a few years went by, she and her husband moved to the Phoenix area to settle down and start a family. She took a 5-year break from law before picking it back up in 1964, volunteering in political organizations and presidential campaigns. In 1965, O'Connor was the Assistant Attorney General of Arizona, and she kept that seat for 4 years. After that, Arizona Governor Jack Williams appointed O'Connor to fill a vacancy in the Arizona Senate. She then ran for that open seat and won the following year. O'Connor became the first woman to serve as any state's majority leader. She served 2 terms. In 1974, O'Connor was elected to the Maricopa County Superior Court and then moved to serve on the Arizona State Court of Appeals. Now is her move to the Supreme Court in 1981.
So today, I'm pleased to announce that upon completion of all the necessary checks by the Federal Bureau of Investigation, I will send to the Senate the nomination of Judge Sandra Day O'Connor of Arizona Court of Appeals for confirmation as an Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court.
Nominated by President Ronald Reagan, O'Connor was confirmed by the Senate with a unanimous vote, 99-0. Though she was known as a moderate conservative, she would take on the reputation as being unpredictable in many of her decisions, taking each as a case-by-case situation and not sticking with ideologies for the sake of them. Some key rulings where O'Connor joined the majority in a 5-4 decision were Planned Parenthood v. Casey, affirming Roe v. Wade; Lee v. Wiseman, affirming the separation of church and state, prohibiting prayer at school-sponsored activities; Stenberg v. Carhart, overturning a state abortion ban in Nebraska; Grutter v. Bollinger, allowing colleges to use affirmative action. O'Connor retired from the court in 2006 and moved back to Phoenix. She was honored with being awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Barack Obama in 2009.
When a young Sandra Day graduated from Stanford Law School near the top of her class in 2 years instead of the usual 3, she was offered just one job in the private sector. Her prospective employer asked her how well she typed and told her there might be work for her as a legal secretary. Now, I cannot know how she would have fared as a legal secretary, but she made a mighty fine justice of the United States Supreme Court. A judge, an Arizona legislator, cancer survivor, child of the Texas Plains. Sandra Day O'Connor is like the pilgrim in the poem she sometimes quotes, who has forged a new trail and built a bridge behind her for all young women to follow.
Taja Davis, KGUN 9, on your side.
As one of 4 law clerks for Sandra Day O'Connor, Ruth McGregor could not take too much time to savor the history. The clerks and the new justice had plenty of work to do.
And we were, I think, just so impressed by how well Justice O'Connor handled that, because she was just as aware. I mean, she scarcely could not have known what an important change this was to the Supreme Court. And yet, she just handled things so well and with such calmness and such grace that it really was quite an impressive thing to watch.
That calmness and grace did face some tests from Justice O'Connor's sudden celebrity status. Autograph hunters could turn up anywhere.
One of my favorite stories is we were grocery shopping in Georgetown one night after we had left the court, and a woman came up and asked for her autograph, and she said, of course, yes, of course, what do you want me to write on? The woman didn't have anything, so she grabbed a melon from the produce. So Justice O'Connor signed her melon. I have no idea what happened to it after that.
But Justice O'Connor made a point by working to make her unusual status routine.
Could she act in such a way that this became a normal part of our life, so that it wasn't just the most unusual thing in the world to see a woman operating at that level and in that position? And her ability to do that, I think, did so much for women in the law and women generally, because she showed that you could do this in a way that you just did your job.
Ruth McGregor was an unusual law clerk because she was not fresh out of law school. She'd been a practicing lawyer at a large firm for about 7 years when she had an opportunity to clerk for Justice O'Connor. She says working at the Supreme Court, seeing Sandra Day O'Connor think through tough, important cases, inspired her to work towards becoming a judge. She became Justice Ruth McGregor of the Arizona Supreme Court and later became the Chief Justice there. And on that court, she remembered what Sandra Day O'Connor taught her about bringing a neutral analysis to deciding the law.
That's exactly the way she worked through it. And in fact, when I became a judge, I followed very much the same procedures as we had when I was a law clerk to Justice O'Connor.
Craig Smith, KGUN 9, on your side.
Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor made breaking the glass ceiling look easy, and now her accomplishments are inspiring the next generation of law students at the ASU college named after her.
So I moved halfway across the world to study here at the Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law.
Priyal Thatgar is a third-year law student.
I don't see myself represented a lot in this profession, and when she was appointed to the Supreme Court, I bet she didn't see herself represented as well.
Thatgar is working with the O'Connor Law School's International Rule of Law and Securities program in hopes it'll launch her into the international law arena. She uses Justice Sandra Day O'Connor's story to motivate her.
Right after graduation, nobody would give her a job. She was offered a job of a legal secretary, and that just blows my mind. But she still carried on, and look where she is now.
The law school's Dean of Students, Doug Sylvester, says Thatgar isn't alone. For years, he's heard a similar message echoed at student orientation.
Our students are often talking to us about how much her legacy and what it would mean to be at a law school named after her and have the opportunity to really follow in her footsteps.
Those same students come to learn that inside of the College of Law, Justice O'Connor has her own office, filled with memories of her achievements as a lawyer, politician, and humanitarian.
Intense, inspirational, friendly.
That's how Sylvester knows O'Connor, having met her over the years as the school's dean. He says the law school hopes to provide that welcoming environment.
We do want to be an extraordinarily friendly place. There's no reason for a law school to scare people or to pretend it's something that it isn't.
And that's what it's doing with Thatkar, who's been able to create change as a student in Africa.
I got to work on cases in Kenya, Sierra Leone, and Nigeria on sexual violence against women and women's socio-economic rights.
While Justice O'Connor inspired her to persevere and prove herself, she's not too sure what she would say if she met her.
You know how they say you should never meet your idols or just anybody you admire? So I'm not very good with meeting people who I look up to in ways, so I just freeze.
The Sandra Day O'Connor College of Law offers 13 clinics, from First Amendment to Indian legal and prosecution. In Phoenix, Sierra Encinas, Kigunan on your side.
Most people knew her as Justice O'Connor, some as Sandra Day, but only a few could call her Mom.
There was no Miller time, no idle time with Mom.
For Brian Day O'Connor, his mom kept him and his two brothers busy growing up.
You know, as kids, we learned how to ride a horse, round up, brand, drive tractor, drive truck, again, well before we were old enough to drive.
The family spent a lot of time on the ranch where his mom had grown up. When he was at home in this house, he was still busy but remembers a lot of fun and funny moments they shared as a family, sometimes at the expense of his friends.
Whatever any one of us might have a pal over, my mom would be in on the gig. She'd make dinner, we'd be sitting around the table, and there'd be a dribble glass. And you go to drink it, and it's slob. It causes you to drool. And my parents would say, what's the matter? And of course, we're all in on the joke. So my parents were pranksters.
And while he and his mom were laughing then at this dinner table, sometimes things weren't always as cheerful in the O'Connor house.
When I was not even old enough to drive, I had been secretly hang gliding, and my parents found out. My mom was furious, and she said, I would rather see you jump out of an airplane.
And so as soon as he turned 16, he did just that. But his mom kept her word.
But she made good on that, you know. So there is a time when she puts her fist down and no means no. But also a deal is a deal with Sandra O'Connor.
Like this photo, Brian remembers that story now as one of the funny moments with his mom. Fast forward a few years later to 1982, when one of the moments he's most proud of sharing with his mom happened.
When she got on the court, she was the hottest ticket there was. So she had every academia, you know, university trying to give their commencement address. And of course, the one she chose was Colorado College, where I was graduating from. And so I think that was as special for her because she had paid my tuition along with my dad to give that a commencement address as it was for me to have her.
Brian has kept the speech from that day with him. He read it to me knowing that the words still ring true today.
She says that some of the best arguments in the 150 or so she heard that term have been made by lawyers who would be characterized as unknowns, and sometimes the argument of a famed lawyer failed to live up to his or her reputation. And so the essential point of all of this is simply to make the same point in a different context, that the individual can make things happen. So there's some other good things in here, but good advice for all of us from my mom back, 40 years ago.
After college, Brian would get to visit D.C. every now and then, and just like when he was a kid, his mom kept him busy.
Yeah, mom always made sure that when we would come and visit that we had a list of things. Okay, we're going here, we're going here, we're going here.
During her time on the bench, Brian got to know some of her colleagues.
And all of these folks I just considered friends, and was so happy to, on a one-to-one basis, get to know these people.
His mom focused on relationships, whether it be with colleagues at work, friends, or most importantly, family. And like Brian's graduation, she wanted to share her moments with them.
She had all of her family, grandkids and sons, sign this statue while it was still clay on the base of it, on the bottom of her robe, so that when we go to the federal courthouse, there's Weston O'Connor, and there's, Brian O'Connor and the other grandkids and whatnot. And so that's kind of a neat legacy to have.
And while that statue is just one aspect of Justice Sandra Day O'Connor's incredible legacy, to Brian, she'll always be Mom.
Apparently she liked this photo of herself. And how is it signed? For Brian, with love, Mom.
Craig Bradbury.
Okay. So she's Mom.
KGUN 9, on your side.
Pioneer, game changer, trailblazer. These are words professors and a student used to describe Sandra Day O'Connor.
As a woman and as a lawyer, she was certainly a trailblazer for women in the field.
Tessa Dysart, a professor at the James E. Rogers College of Law, says Sandra Day O'Connor's perseverance inspires her and other people in the law field every day.
She graduated third in her class at Stanford and then yet struggled to find a job.
I can only imagine how much strength and determination it took to continue to move forward despite the constant no, the constant doors closed in your face for no reason other than your gender.
Professor Susie Selman remembers when President Reagan nominated Justice O'Connor into the Supreme Court, making her the first female associate justice.
I remember being really excited that a woman was assuming this very important role.
And when she decided to pursue law, she quickly realized it was a male-dominated field.
It's challenging for, I would say, non-males, so women and non-binary people, to see a place for themselves in the law. It is definitely improved, thanks in large part to women like Justice O'Connor.
Something Rachel Romaniuk, who's going into her last year of law school, agrees with.
I had no lawyers in my family, so people like, Sandra Day O'Connor providing that start to more civics education, more legal education, really paid off for me.
And O'Connor continues inspiring Romaniuk, who aspires to be a public defender.
Coming from the Arizona Court of Appeals to the Supreme Court is crazy. It's like unprecedented, and especially as a woman being confirmed unanimously by the Senate.
The legacy that she will leave is one of promise, one of, you can do it.
Justice O'Connor is one of those people that would want anyone who believes that they care about the law to come into this field.
Thank you for blazing that trail and making it easier for the rest of us.
Lustelia Caballero, KGUN 9, on your side. As the first female U.S. Supreme Court Justice, Sandra Day O'Connor paved the way for women everywhere.
It was like the moon landing for a lot of women that I know. I can remember where I was. I know women that pulled over to the side of the road and wept, who were attorneys, young attorneys, who now knew that the sky was the limit for them.
She was nominated by President Ronald Reagan in 1981 and served on the Supreme Court for 25 years. In 2018, O'Connor announced her retirement from public life. She was diagnosed with the early stages of dementia, but her legacy continues.
She was really looking at something that could be a catalyst for change and to help society. And so that's when the 501c3 was established, the nonprofit.
That nonprofit is the Sandra Day O'Connor Institute for American Democracy. CEO Sarah Suggs says their mission is to empower people of all ages to make a difference in their community.
Civics education and civics knowledge is so important for every age group to be an engaged citizen, a responsible citizen, to understand your role in our democracy, what we can do as citizens to become more involved.
The Institute's work is best showcased through events like Camp O'Connor. Every year, kids are invited to learn about each branch of government.
That's a week-long summer camp for incoming 7th and 8th graders. And kids come in on Monday morning not really knowing much, and they leave Friday ready to lead the world.
The Institute is also home to the Sandra Day O'Connor Digital Library and Resource Center. It's available online 24/7 and gives the public an inside look at her life and many accomplishments.
We have everyone from school children to students, legal scholars, general public that want photos about her from her childhood on the Lazy Bee Ranch in southeastern Arizona to modern times.
Today, the Institute has reached people in all 50 states and 20 countries, but their most important work happens right here in Arizona.
We have a national treasure here that forever changed the course of history, as someone that we should be truly proud of and honor. She would want us to pursue our civics knowledge, civic engagement, and civil discourse in everyday life.
Megan Meyer, KGUN 9 on your side.
Well, Sandra Day O'Connor is an Arizona icon and an American treasure. The first female to sit on the United States Supreme Court, appointed by Ronald Reagan. But even more than that, it's her life and upbringing in the Southwest. It's the civility that she brought to public life and the arena in which she participated. And it's the legacy that she will leave us all, as we will be proud of her as a icon in the pantheon of greats in Arizona, and someone that we've all been graced by her humility and civility along the way.
Unbelievable woman, just strong and independent and determined. Such a wonderful example of the Arizona cowboy attitude, that we have this independent attitude that Arizonans and Sonoran Desert dwellers carry forward. I grew up hearing of Sandra Day O'Connor, and so she was such a trailblazer, opening doors for so many other women in politics and in law, and in service to our country and our state.
I remember 40 years ago, I was in high school. I think I was a junior or senior in high school when President Reagan nominated her to the Supreme Court. I remember that being a very big deal that day, and a very good move in the right direction for our country. And I want to see more of that. I just had a granddaughter born a month ago tomorrow. She'll be 1 month old, or she'll be 4 weeks old tomorrow. And just to see more opportunities for women to be able to go into any field at any time is so important for the future of our country.